have about 30 people on the call, so we're going to give people a few minutes. I know some people at the last minute couldn't make it, but I see people logging on, and we will get started shortly. Hi, everyone. We're going to give people a few more minutes. We have about 30 registered, so I know people are trying to log on and figure this out. I know a few people weren't going to be able to make it, but we're going to give people a couple minutes as we're all sorting out this exciting technology for us right now.
Is that what we're sorting? Hello, Diana Boja. Long time no see. Hang on, you're all muted.
Okay,
I unmuted you for a second.
thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. I'm very excited.
Thanks for being here, Diana.
Yeah.
Hello, Larissa. Oh dear.
I put in the chat, if you didn't read the whole email, if you want to fully participate and play along as we go, here are some of the supplies that would be helpful for you to have. So we have another minute to do that. If you haven't collected your supplies, feel free to do that.
Hello?
Bobby, I've gotten a couple of messages, so I'm sending out the link. So I'll be back on in a minute.
Okay.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, John, we can. I'm not sure why,
Hi.
because everybody else is muted as they get here, but you are allowed to unmute yourself if you'd like to say something. And we'll have people unmuted when we get together and do the activities.
Okay, perfect.
In general, I don't know how many of you have spent a lot of time on Zoom lately, but you hear everything. You hear them taking notes, you hear them shuffling, those sorts of things. So during the presentation part,
All right, Bobby, when you're ready, you can launch us off.
I will. So during this presentation part itself, John, you're upside down.
How is that?
I don't know how that. During the presentation part, please mute yourself unless you want to interrupt and ask a question or make some sort of comment. And otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And start the slideshow. So, welcome to Shifting Gears and Changing Our Minds. Mari and I have worked together for years, and we decided to collaborate on this project because people are struggling, and I don't just mean our clients. We need to figure out how we can be as helpful, supportive, and connecting as possible with all of the clients and people that we work with in our lives. And so we wanted to both address the worldwide trauma that's occurring right now and talk in some specifics about how can we be experientially engaging with them while we're limited to telehealth. And you should be limited to telehealth because it's not okay to go out there right now and to put your clients at risk with you or to put your families at risk with your clients. So, so let me just launch into this part of the presentation and see what we're talking about here. All right. Technology. Okay, so COVID-19, that's really why we're here. COVID-19.
We don't see your screen if you're sharing it yet.
I'm not sharing?
Nope.
That's so odd. Okay, here we go. How about that, folks?
There you go. And did you introduce yourself? I recognize it's nice to see some people from
I know.
AE and Prescott and my world down here. And then I see some people that I've never met before. So that's super fun too.
So my name is Bobby Beal. I'm a clinical psychologist by trade, and I have my hands in a lot of different kinds of client service arenas. In the state of Ohio, I work for the Center for Innovative Practices, and I'm going to go back here so you can see our names. I work for the Center for Innovative Practices, and my friend Mari Lung is with Prescott College. And together we work in have our own organization called Life Adventures. I call my part of it Life Adventures for All, and it's about those most vulnerable populations and how I can help them here in Ohio. And Mari's business is Life Adventures Counseling and Consulting. And so together we do a lot of projects, and this is one of them. And so let's try this again. COVID-19, it's everywhere. And it's traumatizing and causing chronic traumatic stress for everyone, not just our clients, but we are included in that. And so are your family members and friends, and literally everyone in the entire world is impacted by this right now. The problem is that this activates our stress response system, whether we want to be activated that way or not. And when your stress response system is activated, it triggers your survival skills. You probably recognize these from the words fight, flight, or freeze. If we are activating these survival skills, isn't that a good thing? I mean, we are in a traumatizing time right now, and what's wrong with activating all of those skills? But before I dig deeper into our survival skills, I want to turn it back over to Mari.
So throughout this presentation, we'll be offering some virtual activities that you can do. Of course, you can do these activities if you're in person, but part of the challenge of telehealth is how are we connecting experientially with each other as two. So we're going to be practicing and inviting to do some of these activities. You will get a copy of the slide and the video link and all of the activity directions afterwards as well. So feel free to join in. In a moment, I'm going to have Bobby put you into breakout groups, in groups of like 3 or 4. And in your breakout groups, there's 2 check-ins that I invite you to do with each other. One is just that thumbs up to thumbs down. What I love about this thumbs up to thumbs down is that you can be somewhere in between. And what would that look like? And it's a super easy visual way to say, how am I doing right now? So the question is, how are you doing right now and related to this crisis that we're dealing with? You kind of do that thumbs up to thumbs down. And then the second part of the conversation is to select a car part that represents your role and how you have to manage COVID-19. Are you the passenger window and you're like everyone else is doing everything and you're just hanging out in that hammock? I highly doubt that given your role that you showed up today, but maybe you are. Are you that catalytic converter that's trying to make homeschooling work and your clients stay on path and your own health and wellness? So pick a car part that explains your role in relation to this COVID-19 and share a little bit about that. You will get a warning when there's just 2 minutes left, and then the breakout group will end and you'll be automatically launched back into the larger group. So Bobby, if you can go ahead and open up those breakout groups. Bobby, taking a look at the breakout list, is there at least 2 people in each group? I know we have a couple of people who didn't join a breakout group, but
Yeah, we do. And
we want to make sure that someone's at least talking to each other.
right. Sandy, Jackie, Megan, is there a reason you're not joining a breakout group? You can unmute yourselves.
Sometimes it's hard to join if they're on a phone.
Ah, is that what it is?
Sometimes it's just whatever they are doing. You know, people who are just listening versus participating. I'm not particularly worried. I just wanted to make sure that there was at least someone to talk to in each group.
Sandy and Jackie, can you hear me?
Yeah, but I can't. I've disappeared.
You can't join.
Yeah, I thought I saw your face there for a minute, Sandy. So you're on.
No, I was there. I can't. I went away. I don't know what happened.
Like
Well,
you
why
can't
don't you
see
log off
yourself?
and log back in? You'll be okay.
Okay.
And then, oh, Jacqueline maybe she just did that, or did she join a group?
I don't know. Oh, let me see. Because I have the list.
Yeah, you have the list.
She's in a group.
Okay. So just Sandy got stuck somewhere.
Sandy did get stuck, and I don't know how to help her. Boy, isn't that the story of our lives?
You could be in our little breakout group. It sounds like you clicked on a different application, and so Zoom got reduced somehow. If you were on a computer, I would tell you to touch the little blue icon with the white camera. But are you on a phone or a computer?
Do you have a message you want me to broadcast to them?
No, because when you close the group, it will automatically give them 2 minutes. Sometimes I give them additional directions at this point, and we will at another activity, but we won't.
Okay.
What the hell?
Sandy, you and technology, huh?
Oh my God. You can't hear me, can you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh,
You can. I can mute you, Sandy, and I will mute you because everybody else is muted.
that's fine. I'm on a blank screen. I got bumped off and now I'm trying to download it. So go ahead and mute me.
Okay.
Everybody else should be
here.
unmuted if they're in their breakout groups. They can talk or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm muted, Sandy. While we're pausing, we're going to give them 1 more minute and then we'll give them their 2-minute warning, just because I think people just need time to check in. Oh, this is a new person. You can, hi, Elise. Oh, where'd she go? There you are. No, she's not on audio yet. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, I see. I could assign her, but the truth is you're going to call them back. We're already at 1/4 after.
Yeah, go ahead and do the 2-minute. Well, it's just that click close, it will automatically give them that warning.
It's only 60 seconds.
Oh, then do a broadcast 2 minutes and then in 1 minute.
Too late. I hit the button and it gave me 60 seconds.
That's perfect. You can watch it as people start
They
to
do.
rejoin.
Some jump back out and others wait to be closed out.
It logged me out. It didn't let me have a choice. It just brought me back here in the middle of a sentence.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
I know. Usually it doesn't do that. Like we can see the countdown before it automatically closes it.
Yeah, how weird.
I accidentally hit the button to come back.
And I think we've seen that sometimes in our class too. People are like, ah, you touched the wrong thing and you got launched out of your group. All right, Bobby, it's back to you.
All right, let me try this again, see if I can make it work. I'll share that screen.
While she's sharing your screen, that importance of check-in, gauging that temperature, offering people the opportunity to be seen and to be heard and to be witnessed. A lot of what I've heard from my clients this past week is that they don't want to burden other people with how they're experiencing it. So they're either not talking about it or they're just hearing like, well, look on the bright side, or you could fix it like this. And sometimes, you know, that power of just being heard is really important. Yay, we can see the screen. Thanks, Bobby.
Excellent. So let's dig a little deeper into those survival skills that we were talking about. Survival skills in general are designed to help us escape or get away from those perceived threats out there. They can also help us alleviate the pain or distress that's caused by those inescapable threats. And definitely COVID-19 feels inescapable. Our survival tools often look like aggression, impulsivity, and self-centeredness. I don't know about you, but I've spent my entire career working with children, youth, and families, and those 3 words are very frequently on the diagnostic assessments of the kids that I get. And so, in essence, I'm being set up to work against the skills that the brain is putting out there to try to survive a situation. And that's quite a conflict. We need to be thinking about survival skills as ways that any reasonable person would act in order to escape a threat or alleviate pain. And my personal soapbox in all of this is that we must stop punishing trauma responses and survival skills. We have to do better than that, and we have to figure out what to do instead. COVID-19 puts everybody, including us, on the crisis cycle. Everybody's triggered. In the morning when you wake up, do you remember that we're in the middle of a pandemic? And what kind of feelings wash over you as you sort of come into consciousness? Are you immediately aware? Does it sort of dawn on you? How does that feel? Are you feeling any anxiety, any depression, any feelings of being overwhelmed? Those are all triggers. Those are all the emotions are triggered by the reality of our situation, that we are living in a pandemic. Again, pandemic, I thought that word was reserved for science fiction movies. I did not anticipate I would be using that word on a daily basis at any point in my life. And here we are, we're inside an actual pandemic. So every morning you start by being triggered by the events going on and unfolding around us, and it causes us to feel dysregulated, just not comfortable, not typical or not normal. And if we don't know how to manage that, and hopefully all of you on this webinar do know how to manage that, but some of our clients don't, or we're not that good at it. And that can accelerate until you peak. And when you peak on a crisis cycle, you can think about that as either a meltdown or a blow up. And eventually you will de-escalate, even if you don't have anybody there to help you, but it's super uncomfortable and it's not where we want our clients to go, particularly on a daily basis. And finally, you can get back to that recovered state. But once we're on a crisis cycle, your goals, your treatment goals disappear. They sort of move to the edges, and you are left with safety and survival. And truly, that's where we are right now. And because all of us, clients, providers, and the rest of the world, are on this crisis cycle now, more than ever, folks, we need to be trauma informed. So let's take a minute and look at what SAMHSA has said to us about trauma informed care. I apologize if I am speaking to the choir and you feel like you already know this, but bear with me, because I think the big reveal here is to keep applying it to ourselves and to our clients, and understand that we need to maintain some sort of balance here. So in trauma-informed care, we are advised to adhere to the 4 R's. We want to realize the widespread impact of the trauma, and I think we are realizing it day by day, and the many pathways to recovery. And we'll talk more about those pathways and things that we can do as we move through this. We'd like to recognize the trauma signs and symptoms. I gave you the 3 most salient ones: fight, flight, freeze, or aggression, impulsivity, and self-centeredness. Those are a parallel set of signs and symptoms. How do we respond to that? Hopefully you're integrating all of your knowledge about trauma into all facets of both your service delivery and your personal life. And finally, we need to resist. Resist re-traumatizing people by helping to decrease unnecessary triggers and by not punishing survival skills. It's time for us to shift gears. The first point is that you have to realize that no one's going to be working on their old treatment goals right now. We are all working on making sure that we're surviving and that we're staying safe. Everybody's goals should be safety and survival. We need to put basic needs first. That's how you check on safety and survival, is you figure out what are the basic needs and try to take care of that. A huge focus for a lot of people right now is food. How do I get my food safely? Am I going to have enough money to get the food to feed my family? What are the processes? Things like that. And that's a very basic need. We need to understand basic crisis management skills, because people will easily be tipped into some sort of crisis response. And you need to get good at safety planning. Even if you haven't been working with deep end populations where safety planning is kind of just part and parcel of what we do, you're going to have to get good at safety planning. Things that cause conflicts that could escalate and lead to bigger problems, need to be addressed low on that crisis incline, as opposed to waiting until there's a big problem. Now that most of us are being asked to shelter in place, you know that we have families and couples and situations where people are living together in close quarters, and there may be domestic violence, child abuse and neglect, and just general conflict that's constantly brewing. And so we need to be ready to help them process and de-escalate those things. We also want to utilize and encourage anxiety reduction strategies, coping skills, grounding skills, being present, those sorts of things. And when I say utilize, I mean you. You should be using these things too. You should be practicing them, exercising your resilience on a daily basis. Because the solution to all of this, to get through to the other side, is going to be to activate both provider and client resilience.
All right, pause there for just a minute. Oops, go back a slide.
You bet.
Okay, so now I invite you to take a piece of paper, just a regular piece of paper, and hopefully you have crayons or markers, and just quickly, so with clients I usually give them like 5 to 7 minutes, but we're getting a taste test. So like in 2 to 3 minutes, draw a picture that represents where you're at right now and how the COVID-19 is impacting you. Where do you feel like you're at? Use at least a couple of different colors as you're drawing, and you're thinking about, and you might be thinking about those different components in your life. So how are things with relationships? What is it like with work? How are things with finances? What about with family? What about with that physical health and wellness or financial health and wellness? You can put a few of those things in your picture. This isn't like a major artwork, but it's giving you a visual representation. What it might be looking like. You're ready, show your picture. So you can kind of see in my picture that I'm like floating in the water. I'm not drowning yet, and I have an inner tube, but I'm a little shocked. And you see my little shark fin over there, that's COVID-19. It is sunny, so there's this like weird thing of like, it's beautiful outside. There's some moments that are really exciting, and there's some clouds in the background, and I'm definitely aware that there's this shark lurking by. Oh, I see another picture. Andrea, are you willing to share a little bit about your picture? You just happen to.
It's also on the water.
Oh, yours is also on the water.
Yeah.
You must be in Florida too.
Yeah. I'm paddleboarding, but I'm going up a very rough wave, a very bad current. Luckily, I have the sun. It's hard to see, but there is a sun. So I feel like even though I'm distressed, I feel like I know that there's a bright light ahead. There's hope.
I won't force anyone else to share about it, but if you have your picture, just kind of
There's
put it
Quinn.
up in that window and kind of take a look at where people are at. Wow, look at those different pictures. You can see too, this is an activity that you can easily do with your client. This is just part 1 of the activity. We're gonna let Bobby go a little bit more forward, and then we'll do part 2. So if you want to add to your coloring while she continues, and then I'll pause her for that next part. All right, Bobby, go ahead.
Gotcha. Okay, back to our slides. So, if the solution is to activate everybody's resiliency, let's look at the building blocks of resiliency. I feel like the vast majority of the time we spend as counselors, social workers, psychologists, therapists, we spend a lot of time in the middle two blocks here. Connections or positive relationships, and mastery, which implies skills and competencies. But I'm going to ask you to lower your gaze to the bottom block of resiliency, where it says basic needs and resources. This is where we need to focus with our folks right now, because everybody's on edge, everybody's anxious, everybody's concerned. And one of the reasons that we're super concerned is because we're still on the front side of this slope. You've probably heard and seen a lot of the things about flattening the curve and all of that. But until we peak and get to the worst part of it, it's really hard to have much of a future orientation, okay? And so right now, what we need to do is recognize where people are. You know the old adage, meet the client where they're at? Well, pretty much everybody's down here at the bottom of this pyramid. So you need to check in with all your people repeatedly about basic needs and resources. Are they safe and what do they need? Now, some people get concerned that if I go there, if I ask these questions, how am I supposed to help them? What am I supposed to do about the fact that they might not have enough grocery money this week, that sort of thing. And I just want to remind you, you are not required to solve everything or to do everything for them. A lot of our role is to validate them, to see them, to witness them in their concerns and in their pain and in their need. And that can feel very supportive and sometimes sustaining. So make sure you're checking in with your people about basic needs and resources. And you may be surprised in what little ways that you can help them or that you can connect them to resources that would be helpful. One of the silver linings of this kind of event and what's happening right now is you're probably seeing, as I am, a lot of really amazing positive things happen about people helping each other, about companies giving things away for free to make sure that their communities are safe and supported, or even just entertained for a little while. So focus in on those basic needs and resources. Validate the people that you're working with. This is the level at which we need to go in and connect, because our being present with them and connecting is part of the stabilization and healing process. Now, when we do that, we're going to have all sorts of challenges because these are still our clients, right? And if it was easy for them, that we probably wouldn't have them as clients because we're the helpers. So internal challenges that you might run into include these things. Emotionally, very reactive. If you have a history of childhood trauma, or ACE scores as we know them, then you tend to overreact to things. Now, the truth is, I'm not sure we can overreact to COVID right now. As a matter of fact, the places
Because it is a pandemic.
I'm sorry.
We are in the middle of a pandemic.
We are in the middle of a pandemic. So I agree. I think it's hard to overreact. But our clients who have significant early trauma are going to be extra reactive. And that's probably coupled with limited emotional regulation skills. And so we be aware of that and make sure that you have a lot of space in your work with them to allow for overreactions and poor management skills, and just sort of, again, witnessing it and getting through it and then working with them. Behaviorally, we'll see some poor impulse control because that's part of the response system. But what I am concerned about is the risk-taking factor. We definitely want to make sure that we are putting them in contact with the best, clearest information. And frankly, I'd send them right to the CDC where they have lots of really good information and lists spelled out about what you can and should do. Because I fear that some of our clients will be taking a lot of risks. They'll feel at loose ends. They're going to want to connect with other people. They're going to leave the house. They're going to socialize with other people. And it's really not healthy or good for them to do that right now. Cognitively, there are some maladaptive thinking patterns, and you can do some cognitive work with them on that. But developmentally, we're also likely to see the same skill set deficits that we've been seeing with them. And it's not like they're going to get better magically because there's stress or crisis going on. And you're also going to be more exposed to some very legitimate disabilities. Not that our people don't have legitimate mental health disabilities, but you're probably also going to be exposed to their families and their environments where they are staying. And you're going to see people with physical disabilities, developmental disabilities, and all sorts of limitations. So just watch for all of these challenges as you're trying to do your work. Externally, I think some of the things that we need to watch out for are negative peers or negative people in general. I don't know how many of you spend much time on Facebook or hanging out on the virtual news these days, but boy, there's a lot of different opinions about what people should be doing. And I want to make sure that families and clients are hearing directly from us about what is best. Mari, can you handle the participants and mute them so that they don't?
Yep, I'm working on it.
Okay. So families who struggle probably have a fair amount of conflict. And boy, families who have been struggling and we've been trying to support them are now suddenly homeschooling or doing virtual schooling with their kids. And many of them are completely unprepared for that. I have a doctorate and I don't find it easy or simple to get my kid through her school stuff every day. So,
and I've been referring to that with my clients. It's like, we're not really homeschooling. Homeschooling is when you make an intentional decision to have this experience. You want to be able to do this. You have some capacity to do this. We are crisis schooling.
So just keep that in mind. Places, if they have a difficult home environment, this is not going to be comfortable for them. And they may feel stuck or feel like they have no privacy. And these are things you're going to have to address with them. One other thing I have to mention is substance use and substance abuse. It's pervasive. And in a way, it seems like it's condoned. I am positive that you've seen the funny memes about, not ever having to get out of your jammies and being able to drink or use in the middle of the day because why not? It's a pandemic.
And the big wine box for mommy and the little juice boxes for the kids.
Yes, one of those memes, yes. And so watch out because our clients are feeling like, oh, it's okay. If it's okay for these people, then it's okay for me. And they're diving back into their substances. And that is not going to help anybody in the long run. And obviously, the pervasive safety issue is COVID-19 itself.
Okay, go back a slide and pause for a minute.
Okay.
So now take a different piece of paper, not the same piece of paper that you're using, a different piece of paper. And on your new piece of paper, go ahead and draw a new picture of how you would like to be responding in the moment. So you'll see like my old picture, my first picture, I'm on in the little raft, the shark is coming. And my new picture, you'll notice I'm in a boat so that I'm a little bit more safe. And my boat even has like a little safety screen there. And there's another person with me. So draw a picture of how you would like to be responding in the moment. And as you're drawing that picture, Bobby, you can go ahead and move forward.
All righty. So let's go back to that crisis cycle for a minute because I'm worried, and if you're not seeing your clients sort of in crisis or super triggered right now, buckle up because we haven't gotten to the worst part yet. And so I want people to have some interventions at the ready for when they call a client or a family and things are messy and ugly and conflictual. So I've given you a series of what are considered trauma-informed interventions that can be applied throughout the crisis cycle. I have a small cadre of prior child and adolescence people on the line with me, and so you may see this familiar picture, but for the rest of us, This is something that I've spent a lot of years working on and have found a lot of help by identifying which interventions help at what point in the cycle. So first of all, keep in mind that your typical treatment, your discussions and interventions with them can only happen when you're at that alert, attentive phase, that baseline of being able to pay attention, having access to their cortex, those sorts of things. Once people are triggered, you have to shift gears. That's the switch from regular clinical goals to you're on the crisis cycle. My entire goal is safety and survival and getting you off the crisis cycle, okay? So when they are agitated or mildly dysregulated, you can do some of these sorts of things. Number one, validate them. Do not say there's nothing to be upset about or you shouldn't be like this. None of those things are helpful. What we need to say is, I see that you're struggling. I feel your pain and I'm so sorry about that. Be very validating. I talk a lot about proximity in live trainings, but the way I see proximity now is how close can you get to them despite the fact that we are in COVID-19. And by that I mean, can you do a Zoom platform and see them face-to-face, eye-to-eye? Because that's the best substitute for not being face-to-face with them in real life. And if you can't do that, can you be on the phone with them? And if you can't do that, then you're reduced to texting and emailing and those sorts of things. But the closer you can get to them proximally in terms of connection, the better. And so to that end, I challenge you, if you've logged into this and you are just listening in and you don't have your video on, you should be connecting with your group here. And nobody loves this, but we all have to get used to it. And the more you practice it, the more you get used to it. So get your face out there, people. Regulation, doing regulation activities, and Mari's going to talk to you about that in just a minute, but let me just flow through some of these other things. It's just repetitive, rhythmic moving. People, your bodies were designed to move. I've read in different places that we were literally designed to go 20 to 25 miles per day. We were quite the nomads when we first hit the earth. And your body needs that kind of constant motion to feel okay with itself. And if people are stuck inside or stuck in their homes, they're probably not getting enough of that regulatory activity. And finally, just offering support. What can I do for you? How can I help you? Is there somebody I could call? Is there anybody you could talk to? Those sorts of things. How about a glass of water? While I can't get you a glass of water right now, I could encourage you to go have a glass of water right now. And so think about how we can offer support and be helpful in that way. If they continue to accelerate or if they're at a higher level of dysregulation, you can try some of these other skills, like attunement. Attunement simply means mirroring a person. And by mirroring, I don't just mean their physical sense, although you can do that. If they're sitting up and leaning in, sit up and lean in. If they're laid back and sprawled out, then you could reflect that as well. But how about facial expression? How about tone and volume of their speech? Those sorts of things can all be mirrored. The idea behind this is that if you can reflect to them who they are and how they're feeling, they will feel felt. They will feel connected, and that is soothing to your nervous system. Another one is just flat out coping skills. If they're your clients and have been for a while, then you've probably been working with them on some sort of coping skills. But don't just sit there and hope that they use them. Let's do them together. Now's the time when we should count backwards from 10 to 1. Now's the time when we should do this grounding thing. Can I do a guided meditation with you? Those sorts of things. See if you can't just jump in there with them and do the coping with them. It's not going to hurt you to rehearse those coping skills either. And finally, verbal directions. When they're this far along on the crisis cycle, they have not very much attachment to their cortex, and we just need to jump in there and say, do this. Just do this. And if you can capture their attention and have them follow some directions, you might save them from that peep. Mari, do you want to say anything about some of these?
No, but
Not yet? Okay, I'll keep going.
well, actually, can you unshare your screen for a minute?
Yep.
Because I'll give them the next directions as you go forward.
Okay, good.
So we'll do that part. So let's see your second pictures. Just kind of put those up. I love it. Look at these.
Oh, everybody's
pictures.
playing now.
They definitely look different. Okay, with your first picture, take your first picture and put that first picture right at your feet. So it's right by where you're at right now. With your second picture, physically put it somewhere where it feels like this is how far away you feel from your first picture to the second picture. Hopefully it's like not out the door or something like that. I'm gonna move mine back here a couple of feet. So I have a distance between my first picture and my second picture. And then if you brought the index cards, great. If you didn't bring the index cards, you can just take a piece of paper and make small, this size pieces of paper. And then as you're listening to these next ideas about what we can do on your index card, you're going to write down some of those ideas or other ideas that aren't being said about here's how I'm going to shift and change from where I'm at to where I'm going. So one of those things that I'm going to put on mine that I invite everybody to put on theirs is to create some routines. We know that routines help us. So I take that index card and I'm going to make a path between my first picture and my second picture. So Bobby's going to give you a whole bunch of ideas and just keep adding so that you have a whole line from your first picture to your second picture. All right, Bobby, go ahead.
All right. So to finish up this crisis cycle of trauma-informed interventions, remember, if somebody's truly blowing up or melting down, there's no point in talking with them at that moment because they can't hear you at all. And your only goal is everybody safe in this environment? And what can you do to contribute to that safety? As they begin to de-escalate, and they will de-escalate, whether you're there to help them or not, I really see three major ways that you can support that de-escalation. The first is to provide cues, which simply means to narrate the process of de-escalation. I can see that you're breathing more easily now. I can see that you're relaxing your muscles, your arms and legs. I can see that you're sitting instead of pacing around, those sorts of things. So cue them about what de-escalation looks like and feels like. Secondly, you can praise them. How can you praise somebody who just had a giant blow up or meltdown? Well, you can praise them that it wasn't worse than it was. You could also praise them for actually de-escalating, and you could praise them for hanging in there with you. And so figure out a way. One of the things you're doing with that praise is trying to reestablish a connection with them, reestablish your relationship with them because they were out of it for a little bit there. And then finally, back to that generalized offer of support. What do you need right now? You need a break, you want to regroup, a drink of water or a walk, something like that. For those of you who work with children and parents, this slide is specifically for you. If you work only with adults, then you can zone out here for a second. But folks, if you're working with kids, this is a trauma-informed behavior management plan called the do-over. This is a way that we can stop from punishing really anything, because punishment just isn't all that it's cracked up to be. It doesn't usually get you what you want. And so I strongly suggest the do-over. And during the do-over, the person, the parent, the adult, the caretaker interrupts the unacceptable behavior. And by the way, it's unacceptable behavior, not a crisis. You're not talking about something truly over the top, but all those irritating behaviors. And if you have kids, your kids are definitely irritating you these days of being locked up together. Okay, so interrupt those unacceptable behaviors quickly and very consistently, saying something like this: I can't let you do that because it isn't safe or it isn't respectful. I find that most behavior that we struggle with is either unsafe or disrespectful. And so whatever sentence makes sense to you, but we want to keep everybody safe and we want everybody to respect each other, including you. Then immediately coach them to do the right thing with very specific directions. So they're doing something you don't want them to do. You interrupt that and you say, what I'd rather see you do is this. And just spell it out for them, exactly what you would like to see them doing right then. And then turn away for a moment. Let them regroup and decide for themselves if they're willing to try it. Why might they try it? For example, they might try it because if we're doing the do-over, there's no punishment here. I would prefer that we worked it out between us, that I give you some ideas about what you could do instead. And if you try the things I'm suggesting, no consequence, no punishment, no grounding, no screaming and yelling, all of those things. And you will have to repeat this as often as necessary. It's not magic. It takes a lot of time and repetition. But once they get into the habit of understanding that you're just always going to interrupt them and tell them what you'd rather see instead, we tend to see some fair amount of movement toward the more appropriate behavior. It should be reinforced immediately. Perfect. They have to move in the right direction. If you have thoughts or questions about the do-over, you feel free to contact me and I can talk to you more about it. But we've had significant success with it, both in homes and in classrooms. So let's go back to resiliency, though. And this is more appropriate for everybody, no matter who your clientele is. This is a resiliency consensus statement. It was put together back in 2009 by a group of parents, young adults, and other clients in the state of Ohio. And it was a project called the Resiliency Leadership Project. And it was a work group. It met for over a year, and they really dug into resiliency. What's it take? How does it happen? What are the parts of it? And these really are 12 different components of resiliency. One of the reasons I included them in these slides, which you'll get a copy of, or at least a PDF of them, is because each one of these could be one or more sessions that you could focus on with your families or people during this time. Each one of these could be expanded into multiple conversations or multiple sessions, and they all support resiliency. If we could facilitate folks to increase all of these components, they would feel and do much better. I'll draw your attention to just a couple of them. First of all, validating and valuing. Again, I really can't say enough about that right now. Just connecting with people and saying, I see you. I see you out there. I'm in a pretty large household. There are 8 of us who live here. And even amongst us, there are members of us who are sad because they're not with their other friends. They're not with the other people in their family. And you feel sort of isolated, even if you have people that you're living with. And frankly, it's hard for me to imagine living alone right now. That would be very isolating. So valuing and validating the people as they're out there can be very helpful. Another one I would like to draw your attention to is—
I'm going to pause you for a second because, Bobby, another idea that I've been talking with my clients, especially the middle schoolers, are so used to having lunch with their peers. And that's where they sit and eat lunch and talk with their peers. And they're like, I don't want to have lunch with my mom and dad or by myself. And so mimicking some of that, if you can, that's a good time for FaceTime or a Zoom call with their friends at lunchtime that mimics their normal routine.
Good idea. Thanks, Mari. And that moves right into the next one I was going to mention, which is positive connections. And so how can we help facilitate positive connections? Of course, you are a positive connection for them, but also how can we help them have positive connections even though they are sheltering in place? And is that with the people in their home? Is that could we find virtual connections for peers? Could we find virtual connections for parent groups? They're all over the place right now, but you have to dig in. You have to spend some time looking together and figure out how to do that. And finally, which other one shall I highlight? Oh, contributions and participation. I'm a big believer that people feel better if they're helping someone else. And if we can get people to figure out how can they help, how can they contribute to the greater good, they will absolutely feel better about themselves. I've heard it referred to, just yesterday I was on a call with some folks at the State Department here in Ohio, And somebody mentioned this concept of you get a double shot of dopamine when you help other people. And we could all use a little more dopamine right now. So figure out how can you help your families and clients help each other and help the world. So what we want to do next is identify helpful responses and supports to the people that we're working with. Sometimes you have to know what doesn't work to find out what does work. And so first we'll take a peek at some of these less than helpful responses that we are capable of doing. And I'm not pointing fingers here at anybody, but I'll bet I know I've tripped into several of these myself occasionally. First of all, don't challenge people beyond their current ability. And their abilities might be dampened right now, even more so than prior to COVID-19. Don't be overreactive to things or take things personally. You may be the person that they get to lash out at or dump their stuff on because you're reaching in on your phone call or your video chat to see how they're doing. And they may dump all sorts of stuff on you. And we need to stay professional and make sure that we're taking it in, and we don't want to have an overreaction because it'll stop them from sharing honestly. We need to let go of things. We don't want to extend the negative interactions, and you don't have to spend time convincing them about things. Let go of the word should. There's nothing that should be right now, but offer people options instead. Don't pile on the consequences. You could probably tell from my presentation, I don't like the negative consequence thing anyway, or the punishment thing. We got to figure out a better way to do that. But the consequences of living in COVID-19 is enough of a pile at the moment. Watch your communication. Make sure it's effective, to the point, respectful, all those things. And by all means, no use of force, fear, or threats. The problem is, even if there's realistic stuff to be afraid of out there, and there is right now, doing any of these things simply escalates the behavioral response and increases the likelihood that they're stuck in their stress response system. And we don't want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of bringing them back around. So now let's take a peek at what is more helpful. Being facilitative, being assisted, trying to accommodate them wherever they are. And we are accommodating them. We are, I don't know where you're all coming from and logging in from, but in the state of Ohio, they flipped everyone over to telehealth within less than 5 days. It was the fastest I have ever seen government do anything. And suddenly we all have permission to do all the telehealth we can get our hands on. And good, because we needed it, and we needed to stop the spread. And what's the thing called? Reduce the curve?
Flatten the curve.
Thank you. I lost the word for a minute. Thank you, Mari. So more helpful responses, validation, I can't say it enough, providing emotional support, meeting them where they're at, be flexible, be adaptive. Clients may not be able to stick with you for an hour and a half, whatever you're used to in your sessions. Maybe you should check in with them more frequently, but shorter periods of time might be a little bit more tolerable for some. Other people might want to suck you right in and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk because you're their lifeline. And so be flexible, be adaptive. Focus on making sense of the behaviors that they're sharing with you or exhibiting, as opposed to judging them or saying they should or shouldn't be doing these sorts of behaviors. Keep your expectations reasonable and achievable. This is not a time to be stretching for the stars. This is a time to say, you can get up, you can take care of yourself. Some of the things that we should be checking in on are, have you had something to eat today? Are you being hydrated? Did you get enough sleep last night? Really basic stuff, but we need to be put those out there as expectations that they're taking care of themselves. We want to be consistent and predictable. If we say we're going to be somewhere or do something, please show up and do that thing. Use clear, direct communication, and whenever possible, chunk your information. When I put a PowerPoint together, I'm always chunking my information. What's the most important thing I want them to get out of this slide, and how do I present those main ideas? And so you chunk your information so they can really grasp it, because we're going to have trouble absorbing complexity and focusing. It's the nature of stress. And finally, when you can, externalize your messages. We will externalize all of these messages by sending you a PDF of all the slides so that you'll know it. And eventually, I think we'll be posting the video somewhere or making that available to you as well. But with clients, how can you externalize messages when you are not present with them? Well, you could follow up with an email or a text, because we're allowed to do those things now too, at least in Ohio. Please be aware of what the rules are at your organizations and in your state, but we are being given a much wider breadth of ways to reach and connect with our clients. So take advantage of those while they exist.
Okay, go back a slide and pause. and take us off of the screen for a second. I'm going to try to show you. You see how my little trail, that's kind of what it ends up looking like. And so that activity can be really helpful when you're talking with your clients. And maybe you pick up one that's about exercise or getting outside. I was talking to a client, and that's been 3 days since they saw outside time. He's like, yeah, usually, I get up and I go to my car, and so I get a little outside time there. And so trying to make sure that we see some daylight. And one of the experiments was just going outside to have his coffee in the morning before starting the day. Those routines that are really important. I saw some of the chat and I responded about the adolescents. Adolescents, they want to be independent. They don't necessarily want to be with their families. The peer influence is really important. And suddenly they're at home with their parents. And what I'm finding is that parents aren't giving them enough space. Kids usually get all day without having to respond to their parents. And I've had some parents like, well, I just knock and ask them what they're doing, and maybe aren't giving them enough of that space that they need. And so paying attention to, where the kids are developmentally as well. So one of the activities that I found that's been working really well online, or doing a virtual activity, when we're thinking about how can we make some of these changes in our life, because we're trying to create a new routine and a new normal, is change 3 things. So Bobby, I'm going to have you demonstrate with me for just a moment, because we're going to put you in breakout groups and you'll get to test this out. So not now, but in a moment, when you get into your breakout group, you say hi to everyone, and then everybody stop their video. So Bobby, go ahead and stop your video. I'm going to stop my video. You'll still be able to hear me because I'm still talking. Bobby's stopping her video. And we're going to, maybe Bobby stopping your video?
I don't know how to stop. Oh, here I am.
Okay, so now while we have our video stopped, you're going to change 3 things about the way that you look. And maybe it's super obvious. Maybe it's not so obvious. Something that they could see in the screen. It's totally not fair to take off your shoes and people can't see their shoes. But 3 things about the way that you look. And Bobby, are you ready?
Do I start my screen again?
Yep, turn your video back on. And can you figure out the changes that I made?
I have to pay attention to you? I was so busy worrying about my 3 things.
So then you get to figure that out. So I put sunglasses on my head, a little pen in my ear, and I tied my hair off.
You pulled your hair around on the side, yeah.
Yeah, what did you do?
You don't know?
I have no idea. Did you change your shirt? Okay, so
No.
So you all get the idea. We were just demonstrating. You all get the idea. So go ahead back into your group and play change 3 things with your group members.
How many people do you want in a group?
3 to 4 people in a group.
All righty. There you go.
You changed your background. That was one of the things that you changed.
I did.
But I only noticed that when you changed it back. That's pretty funny.
Now, do you want me to broadcast a message?
Yeah, broadcast that message of turn off the video, change 3 things. See if you can figure it out. You have 4 minutes. Sandy, were you not able to join the group again? That's all right. Just stay. Don't get lost. It is a fun one to play virtually, though. So Bobby, looking in Sandy, you just go over here. Looking ahead, how many more slides do we have?
I don't know. A bunch. I'm not nearly as far along.
Yeah, you're not talking as fast as you did last time.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so
We're good. We still have almost half an hour.
yeah, but I have another activity, one more activity, and a breakout. So if you can do you think you can do those 4 in 15 minutes?
Let me do. Well, I was gonna say I should do 3, and then you should do your activity, and then I should close with the Nadine Burke-Harris self-care stuff.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 more on the resiliency plan, the changing our minds, and the resiliency wheel.
Yep, and then pass it back to me, and we'll do our last activity and breakout, and then we'll end with that, Nadine Burke.
Perfect. All right, I'm closing the rooms. Are you ready?
Instead, give them a warning of 2 more minutes, and then in 1 minute, close the room. I am going to briefly say something about that activity before you turn it up. We turn it over to you. Perfect. I got your little message of 2 minutes. So I'm watching the clock, and I'll tell you when to press it. That is a super fun game to play virtually, by the way. I've been doing that one all week. About change 3 things. I've never done it virtually until this week. But it works so well. And it is really hard to notice changes online and how we're not paying attention as well.
Well, I was so focused on what could I possibly change? I'm sitting here in a corner, and you only see this. All right, are you ready?
I didn't even notice mine. Sandy, did you change your, you turned a little bit? You have a pen in your hand now?
I'm going to close the room.
Okay, yes, close. Oh, mustache, I love it. I parted my hair on the side today. It's totally bothering me, but I was practicing doing something different. Oh, we have some people coming back. Yay. I love how they just blew back onto our screen. People didn't launch themselves back. That's good.
Am I just going?
Not yet. I'm going to do a quick round, and then I'll give it back to you.
Okay.
Is everyone back up?
Yes.
All right. There they are.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to do a quick mute all. I'm not muted. So just as a wrap up, what I love about that activity is you can give a little bit more time of hey, we're going to do this. So just notice what you see in the screen. So giving ourselves attention, but how easy it is to not pay attention to ourselves when we're virtual. And then when you do the change 3 things, you can notice them, and then you have a turn off, and then you add 5 more changes. So you have a total of 8 changes. And you turn the camera back on, and then turn the camera off and do 10 more changes. So you have a total of 18 changes. Some of my clients turn the camera back on. They're I couldn't change anything. And we could talk about that. How did you feel about that? What was happening? I had one client that he had his hands like this, and then his 10 changes were like this. He changed 10 fingers. You just moved all 10 fingers. So some of it is like, how are we interpreting that as well in change? When did we become more stressed? Were we more stressed about making our changes and how we might be looking silly or vulnerable, and change takes that opportunity for us to look vulnerable? Or we were more worried about people finding our changes? Did we do something really difficult, like just move a few pieces of hair to one side that you couldn't tell? Or did we make big changes? So that activity can be really helpful when you're talking about this change process. One of the experiments, I don't call it homework, I call it experiments, that I've been giving people this week, is to make a tiny change in their life and just notice when they notice it. A tiny change, like I part my hair on the side today instead of parting it in the middle. And for the most part, I haven't noticed it until I look in the Zoom. I'm like, oh, my hair looks funny today. And so we notice it at different times, and then from when we notice other changes. All right, Bobby, I'm going to turn it back to you. Wait a second, Bobby, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Okay, now you can go.
Thank you. All right. So I want to come back around to this whole concept of resiliency and what are we going to do about all the problems and crises and anxiety and depression. And it is to work on increasing people's resiliency, including yours. And so these are different components that you could work into a resiliency plan. And one of the things that we're going to share with you in terms of a handout later is something we've developed at the Center for Innovative Practice called an individualized resiliency plan. So as opposed to a treatment plan where you're focusing on what the problems are that you're trying to eliminate, the resilience plan are the things that you want to increase. We've already talked about several of these. You're going to make accommodations by meeting with your clients by video or by phone. You want to coach and encourage them to do regulating activities on a daily basis. You want to increase their connections, their positive relationships, and you're part of that. A heavy focus should be on routines and schedules. People are dysregulated and feel uncomfortable because they're out of their normal routine, and particularly school kids are not doing their normal thing and seeing all their people every day. And so one of the ways to combat that is to increase schedules and routining inside their home. And that's certainly something we can work with people on virtually. Check in on those safety needs and look for opportunities for them to contribute. Whoop. Get back over here. Providers, we have to think about shifting our gears and changing our minds about what's going on. For instance, cultural humility. Up until a month ago, I focused a lot on cultural humility, meaning that recognizing that other cultures are different than your own, and you need to be humble about that, curious, authentically interested in what is going on and what are the differences and how can you align with them. But now I think the cultural humility needs to embrace that we are all in this same culture together. COVID does not care about different backgrounds of people. It's getting us all. We want to remain hopeful and positive, and maintain that expectation that people, including us, will get through this. Never give up on your clients, the youth, or the families. Be realistic in your expectations based on what their current abilities and situation is like. Change your focus from those higher level treatment goals to adaptation, routines, basic needs, and always try to focus on strengths. What are their abilities and talents, and how can they be utilized in the home? And what can you do to get, I was just talking with a young man last night who said, I'm fine right now. I'm just fine. I'm fine. And I was like, well, it's nice that you feel fine. Lots of people don't feel fine. And if you really feel fine, maybe you should be working on how to deal with things when you don't feel as fine, because that could happen too. And so we can also think about changing how we serve and what's the right combination for you. What's the right amount of videoing and phone calling and messaging? Clients are going to need us to be available 24/7. And we want to be appropriately responsive and match what services we have to the needs that they currently have. We're going to change how we support people, be more validating. There's less system navigation to do, but there might be a little still. Parent peer support, and really I could just say peer support. The ability to help people connect with other people is very important. I belong with a church group who has decided to contact every single one of their over 300 members and put them into some virtual group in a small group of 10 to 12 people so that they can have a weekly check-in. I think it's a brilliant plan, and I think people need those kinds of places and other supports. And if we can help facilitate that, please do. And what kind of resources do we have? And resources shift and change on a daily basis right now. You know, for a minute, we're here, it's not for a minute, we are constantly hearing about the lack of health care supplies for people. And a couple days ago, some Ohio company came out with a new face mask, and they can produce hundreds of thousands of them. And so suddenly we feel like, oh, we're in the game again. We can help people. And it does make people feel better. This slide, Activate Resilience, should really appeal to the folks amongst us who do adventure therapy. And if you know Mari and I, then through AEE or TAPG or one of those places, this is one of the things that I use when I'm working with adventure therapists and trying to help them understand the concepts of resilience and where adventure can activate resiliency. Well, it's a little bit different to try to do adventure therapy now than before, and that's why we have Mari on the line with her virtual activities, because she's particularly good about taking an activity and shifting it into some sort of usable format no matter what. And so these are the areas in resilience that I want you to think about impacting with the clients that you're working with. They need to feel safe and have a sense of control. The way you do that is to provide choices and to be really consistent, no surprises. I added the red box just for this session to say we really need to help people routinize their daily lives right now because they might be floundering. I saw some comments about clients not interested in treatment and it's hard to get a hold of them. It's because they just don't quite have a handle on this schedule. They might try to convince themselves that they like this free-floatingness, but it is not good for our nervous systems, and it keeps us on edge, and we want to reach in and help them set up some schedules and establish some normalcy. On the other side of the slide, you have connections. Everybody needs positive, supportive connections, and I think Mari might have a thing or two to say about everybody needs some fun and joy in their life every day. That could be hard to come by, but it's definitely a goal we should really focus on. And before I turn it back over to Mari in just a minute, I want to draw your attention to that second red box off on the right. Consider if there's any way, some of you have mentioned private practice, and so you don't have the kind of pockets to assist in this way, but agencies that I'm working with in the state of Ohio are really thinking outside of the box, and they're talking to mental health boards, county and state boards, and trying to figure out how can we help get people the internet? How can we help get people a smartphone or a tablet or a Chromebook so that they can access the internet, because that's where people are connecting. And we have very rural pockets in America, yes, but in Ohio as well. And so it can be difficult for some of our clientele to have the same connectivity that some of us do. And can we provide resources for them? I've heard about public libraries opening up their Wi-Fi so that anyone nearby can get on it. I've heard about companies donating tablets and phones so that people can get connected. So see what you can find out there, and how can we keep our folks connected. Mari?
All right. So hopefully you have some socks invite you to ball up those socks if you have them. If you did bring your socks, it's okay. Because one of my favorite regulating activities is juggling. So you ball up, I find that if you ball up 2 socks, it works a little bit better than 1. So, but ball up some socks. I have a little koosh ball just because that's what I had in the office. And we're gonna start off with just 1 toss. It doesn't matter which hand, but you're gonna toss just a little bit above your head. Just toss it a few times up and down. I love it. It's so fun to look at the screen and see that. Switch to your other hand. You notice, like, as your clients are doing this, when they start to not think about it anymore, it becomes really rhythmic and repetitive. Now just switch back and forth between that one hand. You want about the same height in your head. I try to not move my head, so you don't want them to look up and down. Most clients tend to look at their hands, which means that you're not tossing it at the same height, or if they're looking up, the ball gets higher and higher. Okay, now that you are have the skills ready, you want 2. So you should have a ball of socks in one hand, a ball of socks in the other hand. Oh, people are ready. This has the perfect rhythm. You're gonna toss one up to about the mid height, and once it hits the height is when you toss the other one. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I usually have my clients count because that helps. You don't toss them at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, you are now juggling. You're doing that actual juggling rhythm. You can juggle with just 2. As soon as you can do that 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern, you are technically juggling. Now, if you happen to have another set, you can try 3. 3 is just a little faster pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can continue to work with that. Most people need to practice a little bit with 2 before we go to 3. There's some great metaphors that you can talk about juggling. So not only is it regulating, and it brings a little bit of play and fun, it's also like, how did you react when you dropped the ball? How do we deal with mistakes? I do the juggling with parents or with families. With parents, we've been talking about making sure that we only drop the balls that can bounce and not necessarily the balls that might be glass. What ones do we need to pay attention to? We were in the chat and we were talking about, someone asked about how do we switch our expectations. And my Wednesdays are finger food only dinners. So no plates, no utensils, no dishes. I don't have to have this perfect family meal all the time. That's an easy one. Or sometimes the dishes just wait until the next day. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. The other activity that I like doing online lately is, so I'll show, I have a variety of cards for emotions. In this case, I just wrote it. Bobby, it's like you read my mind because it's joy. So I'll show that card, and then my client can find something in their room or find a picture on their phone. I'm going to show you this picture. I don't know if you can see it. It's actually of one of my 5-year-olds on the treadmill. So she heard me say earlier that I need to spend more time on the treadmill because it will reduce my stress. A couple hours later, I see her laying on the treadmill with her blanket and pillow and her cuddly and a magazine and a lollipop. And she says, "You're right, it really works." I'd not really thought about napping on a treadmill. So bringing those moments of joy for us. All right, we're gonna do a breakout room again. My invitation is to share something that's joyful, maybe that picture, maybe that item, or just a fun story. And if you get done with that before you get launched back into the room, share something that you might take away with you today from our workshop. So share that joy first. And then if you finish that, share something else. Bobby, make these groups a little bit smaller, so like 2 to 3 people instead of 3 to 4.
Will do.
And we'll see you in a few minutes. Bobby, as you're going through, does everyone have at least 2 people in a group?
No, because Sandy's not in one and you were in that one.
So move that person to another group. You should be able to highlight their name and then move them.
I see. Yeah, everybody's got 3 now. Somebody
Okay.
named Elise is not joined.
There she goes.
There she goes.
Sandy, you can't join. I know, but wasn't that a funny story, Sandy, about Alexandra?
I missed it. Tell me the treadmill story.
Okay, so I gotta show you the picture. I said earlier in the day, I need to spend some more time on the treadmill because it will help me reduce my stress. And then later that day, this is what I see.
Ah,
And she has her blanket and her pillow and her cuddly and a magazine and a lollipop. And she says, "You're right, it works." Come on, that's pretty funny for a
it's
5-year-old.
hysterical.
Totally cracked me up. I'm like, "Stop, don't move. I have to take your picture." Then she says, "Are you going to post about this?" I'm like, "Probably." So she was very excited. She checked the likes on it. And she's like, "People thought I was funny." It's like, "Yeah, people thought you're funny." She goes, "Well, I was just ka-choosing." I'm like, "Ka-choosing." Because George calls a jacuzzi a ka-choosy. And so you ka-choose in the ka-choosy. And every once in a while, she's like, ka-choosing is just a really good thing to do. So instead of relax, we ka-choose. I'll be sad when they outgrow that.
Right.
You want to give them a 2-minute warning?
No, I'm just going to give them a 1-minute warning when I shut it down in a second here.
Okay. And our timing will be perfect. We'll end on that very last beautiful slide. And we did some of my favorite activities.
I'm glad.
The comments, I've been answering the questions as we go along, by the way.
I saw. I'm glad. They have 30 more seconds. They must be chatting or they'd be jumping back.
It's a good thing.
So what do you think, Sandy? Was it helpful? I know you can't actually participate, but here they come.
So as people are hopping back in, I usually do a variety of those signs so that you can show me different songs or different pictures or different items for the different faces. And then the other one that I did the other day, we had 8 pictures and they made that face and we did screenshots of that face with that emotion and they made the little emotion card. So it's another fun version. Remember, you will get a list of all the activities and the directions. So you'll have all of that in writing. All right, Bobby.
Great. All right, well, let's roll on over to our last content slide here.
Wait, we're on a different list. We're on your list of files. Not on
Really?
your,
Hold on.
yep, share the slide screen.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay, I feel like I did the same thing, but okay. Here we go, the deepest well. If you guys are into trauma-informed care and being aware of all the trauma stuff, you may have heard of Nadine Burke-Harris. She's one of my favorites, and she has a great TED Talk out. So if you Google her name on TED or on YouTube, you will find her TED Talk. She's a pediatrician outside of San Francisco, and she set up a youth wellness center for her pediatric practice where she includes social workers and psychologists and all sorts of people in her practice because she likes to think about and treat the whole person and the whole family when she's dealing with a child. She has gotten down to 6 core pieces to address the biology of toxic stress, and I'm pretty sure you're going to recognize all of them, but I do like people who chunk their information, and here it is in a nice usable chunk for you. First thing is sleep. Ideally, you're all stuck at home and should be getting enough sleep now, although some of us, and I saw some comments about people in the healthcare field in particular, are actually busier than before, not less busy. But watch out for sleep, because it's the number one thing your brain needs to stay healthy and do its integrative work. I already mentioned exercise, and you need to be doing daily movement and exercise if you want your body to feel good. Your body doesn't feel bad because you move. Your body feels bad because you don't move enough. And nutrition, having healthy nutrition. I was on a video chat with my 77-year-old father, who said to me, well, I think the hardest thing about this right now is living in a house with 3 weeks worth of snacks. And I get it. You stockpile your stuff. You're all ready for your meals and your snacks, so people don't have to, we're shopping for him, so he doesn't have to go out and do those sorts of things, and it's hard. He says that my mother ate a box of crackers all day yesterday, and then, of course, she didn't want dinner because she had munched on carbs the whole day. So watch out. Keep an eye on your nutrition and try to have healthy meals. Mindfulness. Everybody should have some sort of mindfulness or self-reflection practice. I love meditating, and I teach people to meditate, and it's certainly something you can do virtually. But meditation isn't the only kind of mindfulness that can be. Walking mindfulness is a way to go. Also, journaling is an excellent mindfulness activity. Any kind of self-reflection, including prayer, even coloring can be a mindfulness activity if it can help you relax and be more reflective. Being present in the current moment. Taking care of your mental health, and I saw some chat while you guys were off in your rooms about self-compassion. Could be the biggest thing out there right now. Teaching other people self-compassion and forgiveness and not being perfectionistic right now is really helpful. And so keep your own mental health in mind as well, because if you get stressed out and aren't kind and respectful to yourself, you will not be as helpful to others, and we need you out there. I know I saw the chat where some people, their clients aren't connecting with them and they're not sure what to do, but buckle up, because it is going to be way worse before it gets better. And I encourage everybody to brush up on grief management, grief processing. How do we support people through grief? Because there's going to be a lot of grief. And finally, healthy relationships. Take care of yourself, connect with your clients and with others, and help people to connect in general, because we humans are social beings and we are driven for those connections, and it's going to feel worse and worse as we stay isolated and distant physically from other people. Try to schedule these things into your daily routine, and that will help establish that sense of normalcy as well. That takes us to the end of our presentation, and I will open it back up and unmute everybody. I want to thank you for being here. Thank Mari for participating and doing the activities with us. If people have to run, feel free. I am available to stay on the line for at least a few more minutes if you would like to discuss things or type more questions into the chat. Thanks again for being here. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
Thank you
so very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anybody have some children who need to see their faces on the screen? Because we're available.
Oh, there's one.
Judy!
This is Nolan.
Hi, Nolan.
He's my coworker.
Hi, Nolan.
Betcha.
Oh, I love how he nodded. Yes, I'm absolutely the coworker.
I make mom's job so easy.
Yeah, I bet.
He's trying to steal the scissors and the crayons.
Well, of course. He's like, they're mine. What are you doing with them?
These are mine.
Thanks again.
You're welcome, Diana.
Yes,
So
you'll be getting the slides. Whoever just asked that, the slides and the video and the activities.
Mari, you said you had everybody's email somewhere?
I do.
Fine, I'll send you. Oh, you want me to just email you the PDF and